Now, I am sure that everyone out there, every one of you guys out there that has been paying attention to the Acolyte drama and everything else related to Leslye Headland and Kathleen Kennedy, that the media is already beginning to back Lucasfilm, that they are blaming quote-unquote toxic fans as to why there are so many negative reviews, when in reality, the overall scenario is true, alright? The fans are just fed up with Disney, they're fed up with Lucasfilm, they gave the series a chance so far, the 2 episodes did not deliver. It is coming from an honest perspective. No matter how much the media claims that it's not coming from an honest perspective or an honest, reaction from the fans, is just complete nonsense and is really just setting itself up as a prime example that they don't even know what they're talking about. And just wait for what happens on June 12th with episode 3. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future updates. You can also follow me at Mike01. I thank you all so very much for the great and kind support. So not only is the media backing Lucasfilm, backing Disney, and supporting the Acolyte at all costs, but you also have a lot of actors, a lot of actresses, either those affiliated or not affiliated with Disney, supporting the Acolyte to no end, like there's no tomorrow. One of which is She-Hulk actress Tatiana Maslany. Not a big surprise there, since She-Hulk from Marvel Studios, I don't know if you guys knew this, but it performed in a very similar way to the Acolyte, alright? We already know that as of right now, when you look back at She-Hulk Season 1, alright, I don't know if you guys knew this, but Attorney at Law is sitting around 32% from the audience score, and the critic score is around 77%, alright? So it's kinda similar to the Acolyte, except the critic score is higher there. But what's interesting about this moving forward is that ever since She-Hulk actress Tatiana Maslany lost her role for Season 2 of She-Hulk, after it was cancelled, she has been making endless rants and attacks against both Marvel and Star Wars fans ever since. Now, one major development now has much to do with She-Hulk actress Tatiana Maslany going on a rant about the fan reaction to the Acolyte and how it reminds her of the reaction that she got for She-Hulk. Maslany delivered the following. For a long time, representation, I feel, has always been an issue in the film industry, and diversity is very important to me as a woman. It was extremely insulting to see the type of fan response that the Acolyte got from a male perspective, not just to women, but to those of the LGBTQ community. It's just flat out offensive. The reaction I am seeing with the Acolyte right now reminds me of what I went through with She-Hulk. I mentioned this before, but there is obviously a silent majority that is just afraid to speak their mind. Whether you are part of the LGBTQ community or not, I think anyone who loves a controversial show from a loud minority of supporters are just afraid to speak their mind in fear of being ridiculed, you know? I mean, this happened with She-Hulk, and I have no doubt in my mind that this is exactly what's happening now with the Acolyte by Lucasfilm and what Miss Headland put together for that story. I mean, as far as I see things, the Star Wars fans are more toxic than the Marvel fan base. I feel like those like Kathleen Kennedy and Leslye are getting it worse than I did with She-Hulk and what Kevin Feige had to go through. I got the chance to meet Leslye many times before they finished The Acolyte, and she was just so passionate about representation in this story to really make it mark down in Star Wars history as something game-changing in that universe. I would love to be a part of Star Wars someday, for, of course, that own cause. But my days at Disney have been very complex that I can't really get into right now. For far too long, I think the patriarchy has been focused on in cinema and in television far too much, and for shows like She-Hulk and The Acolyte, these are programs that really tried and are trying to normalize story perspectives from the matriarchy. I just loved what they did in Barbie and that's exactly what needs to be done format-wise and to be presented in both Star Wars and Marvel. I think The Acolyte has a bright future, and the reactions are just so blown out of context. Nobody really knows what reviews or reactions are even real anymore, so I take all the reviews, especially the negative ones, at that with a big grain of salt. In my case with She-Hulk, there was most certainly a majority of fans that loved the show that just didn't want to raise their voice, and that too is part to blame for a series not appearing to perform well. It can also mislead studios into believing what is successful and what's failure on their part, and that is something that Mr. Iger needs to seriously work on to better their ways of handling that perspective on engagement from their customers and fan base. I provide my full support to Ms. Headland and Kennedy for providing a historic moment in Star Wars that will really be a landmark of a series where representation was finally taken seriously by a studio like Disney that just didn't make it a vague presentation but rather up front and center. So guys, let me just stop here quick before I move on about what Tatiana is just saying here, which is just complete nonsense once again. She's going on about the silent majority, right? We've heard her talk about this. Even, heck, Kathleen Kennedy dropped this a couple of days ago about there being a silent majority, that this is a new norm, apparently, in the review side of things, or the critic side of things when it comes to film and television, that there is a silent majority, quote-unquote, that doesn't want to speak their mind in fear of being ridiculed, as she likes to put it. Now look, that is just complete nonsense, and it's nothing more than an excuse to really just face the facts, face the actual, situation of what's going on here. So, we have a lot of things going on with The Acolyte. Most fans that tuned into this thing do not like this show. It's very much similar to She-Hulk. Now look, you're always going to have the exception. You're always going to have some fans out there that are going to love the show, that are going to give it a 5 out of 5, a 4 out of 5, heck, even a 3.5 out of 5 at that, for an average score. You're going to always have that, and there's no changing that. So what's interesting about this is that she's comparing The Acolyte to She-Hulk, and how basically she's blaming the silent majority, quote-unquote, for how studios are being misled to believing that these are failures when they're really success in hiding. It's just a complete lie, and it's something that is being, of course, fabricated by those like Tatiana, Kathleen Kennedy, and others saying silent majority this or that. Moving forward, she goes on to conclude, and I couldn't be any happier for all those at Lucasfilm working on the series going forward. Now look, guys, we talked about this earlier. Episode 3 is about to go full out with their agenda. Episode 3 of The Acolyte is not going to hide it at all. They're going to make it really, really clear that this is what Leslye Headland wanted to do and what she wanted to put in Star Wars. And June 12th, I really do believe this, will be the official death of Star Wars. It will be the final nail, the true final nail in the coffin, where there's no escape from that casket. So overall, I think that the Acolyte series is going to be a worse scenario than The Last Jedi by Rian Johnson. It's going to be a backlash that you have never seen before once Episode 3 drops on June 12th. And look, the media, actors and actresses, for example, like She-Hulk actress Tatiana Maslany, they're going to back this thing to no end, because these are the types of people within the Hollywood bubble that will protect things like this to no end. But overall, I would like to hear what you all have to say about this below in the comments, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel, and I will catch you guys later.